A solar company can be right about the future and still wrong about the business. Solyndra looked like the kind of company a new economy was supposed to produce. It was clean energy, it was advanced manufacturing, it was based in California, backed by major investors, supported by the US government, and built around a product that looked nothing like ordinary solar panels. But the strange part is this: Solyndra did not fail because solar had no future. Solar had a massive future. The problem was that Solyndra built itself for one version of that future, and the market chose another one. To understand why intelligent people believed in Solyndra, you have to start before the company became a political symbol. You have to start with the business problem it was trying to solve. Most solar panels were flat rectangles made with crystalline silicon. They worked, but they brought problems with them. On large commercial rooftops, traditional panels usually had to be tilted toward the sun, mounted on racks, spaced apart to avoid shading, and secured in ways that could add labor, weight, wind concerns, and roof complexity. For a warehouse, a factory, or a big box retail building, the roof could be a valuable energy asset. But it was not always easy to cover that roof cheaply and efficiently. Solyndra's idea was different. Instead of flat panels, the company designed cylindrical solar modules using a thin film material called CIGs. The tubes could capture direct sunlight, diffuse light, and reflected light from the rooftop below. They could sit horizontally. Air could pass through them, reducing wind pressure. They could be packed closely together. And because they did not require the same kind of tilted mounting structure, the company argued that they could reduce installation complexity on large commercial rooftops. From the outside, the product looked strange. From the operator's point of view, it was solving several practical problems at once. The founder, Chris Gronet, was not simply trying to make solar panels look futuristic. He was attacking the economics of installation. If Solyndra could produce enough electricity per rooftop while reducing the labor and hardware needed to install the system, then customers would not just be buying a panel, they would be buying a cheaper way to turn a flat commercial roof into a power plant. That was the original insight. And at the time, there was another reason the idea looked powerful. Traditional solar panels depended heavily on polysilicon, the key material used in most crystalline silicon panels. In the mid-2000s, demand for solar was rising, but polysilicon supply was tight. Prices climbed. For companies using silicon, that meant higher costs. For a company like Solyndra, which used a different material, it looked like an opening. If your competitors depend on an expensive input, and your technology does not, then your strange design begins to look less strange. It begins to look strategic. So the logic was understandable. Solar demand was growing, governments were encouraging clean energy, commercial rooftops were a large visible market, silicon prices made conventional panels expensive, and Solyndra had a differentiated product that promised to reduce more than just panel cost. In that world, raising serious money did not look reckless. It looked necessary. Manufacturing solar hardware is not like launching a software company. You cannot scale with a few servers and a small engineering team. You need factories, machines, supply chains, trained workers, quality control, and enough production volume to bring down the cost of every unit. For Solyndra's leadership, the path was clear. If the product worked, the company needed scale. And scale required capital. Private investors came in. The US Department of Energy backed a loan guarantee of $535 million to help finance a major manufacturing facility in Fremont, California. The factory, known as Fab 2, became more than a building. It became a symbol of what Solyndra was supposed to be, not just a solar startup, but a new American manufacturing champion. From the entrepreneur's perspective, that kind of support can feel like validation. Investors see the opportunity. Government sees strategic value. Customers are buying. The market is growing. The product is differentiated. The factory promises lower costs. At each step, the next decision can feel rational. Build more capacity because the market is expanding. Raise more money because manufacturing needs scale. Move quickly because if the thesis is right, the winner will be the company that reaches volume first. But this is where Solyndra's strength began to hide its weakness. The company did not just need to make a better rooftop system. It needed to make that system cheaply enough to compete with a global solar industry that was changing every year. And the cost problem was brutal. Solyndra's panels were differentiated, but they were not cheap to manufacture. The company needed high production volume to reduce cost per watt. That meant the factory had to run, the machines had to improve, yields had to rise, and each unit had to become cheaper as the company scaled. That is a dangerous race for any manufacturing startup. But Solyndra was not racing alone. While it was trying to bring its costs down, the rest of the solar industry was bringing its costs down too. Polysilicon supply expanded, Chinese and Taiwanese manufacturers increased production, standard solar panels became cheaper. The very input costs that had made Solyndra's alternative technology attractive began to fall. This changed the business reality underneath the company. When silicon was expensive, Solyndra's non-silicon design had a clearer advantage. When silicon became cheaper, conventional panels became more competitive. And because standard panels were backed by huge global manufacturing scale, their prices could fall fast. That put Solyndra in a painful position. Its customers may have appreciated the installation advantages. They may have understood the rooftop logic. But in a market where solar buyers were watching cost per watt closely, Solyndra had to justify a premium against increasingly cheap conventional panels. That is difficult even when your product is clever. It is harder when your company is still losing money. By the time Solyndra filed documents for a potential public offering, the warning signs were already visible. The company had revenue, but it also had heavy losses. Its own filings made clear that the business depended on increasing production and reducing manufacturing cost per watt fast enough to keep up with falling market prices. That sentence is the whole trap. Solyndra did not only need to improve, it needed to improve faster than the market around it, and the market was moving violently. Solar was becoming cheaper, but not in a way that helped Solyndra. The falling price of conventional panels made solar more attractive for the world, but less forgiving for a company built around a premium design. What was good for solar adoption was bad for Solyndra's specific business model. This is why the story is more interesting than a simple failure narrative. Solyndra was not destroyed by the absence of demand for clean energy. It was pressured by the success of the broader solar cost curve. The industry was getting better, faster, and cheaper. But Solyndra's factory, product design, and capital structure were built around a moment when expensive silicon made its approach look more competitive. The company had built for one set of rules. Then the rules changed. At this point, leadership had limited room to maneuver. If they slowed down, they risked never reaching the scale needed to reduce costs. If they kept spending, they risked burning more capital into a market that was becoming less favorable. If they cut prices to compete, losses could deepen. If they held prices, customers could choose cheaper standard panels. This is how momentum becomes a cage. The same factory that represented ambition also created pressure. The same capital that allowed Solyndra to scale also increased the need to prove the model quickly. The same differentiated product that attracted attention made the company less flexible when the market shifted toward low-cost standardization. In 2010, the stress became clearer. Solyndra postponed expansion, closed older capacity, and tried to concentrate operations around the newer factory. From inside the business, this was not necessarily irrational. If Fab 2 was the most advanced facility, focusing there could seem like the best way to lower costs and survive. But operational discipline cannot fix a business model if the gap between cost and market price is widening too fast. The final collapse came in 2011. Solyndra shut down operations, laid off about 1,100 workers, and filed for bankruptcy protection. Because public money had backed the company, the failure became much bigger than a failed startup. It became a national argument about government, clean energy, politics, and whether public capital should be used to support risky technology. That debate mattered, but it also distorted the business story. If Solyndra is treated only as a political scandal, the deeper lesson disappears. The company did not fail simply because the government supported it. And it did not fail simply because the technology was absurd. The business failed because a specialized manufacturing model was scaled before its economics were strong enough to survive a rapid collapse in competing technology costs. That is the mechanism. A good idea was not enough. A differentiated product was not enough. A growing market was not enough. Even government-backed capital was not enough. Solyndra needed its cost curve, its factory execution, its customer value proposition, and the global solar market to line up at the same time. Instead, the market moved against the assumptions that made the company look attractive in the first place. What survived was not Solyndra. What survived was solar. That is the irony. The industry Solyndra represented kept growing. Solar panels kept getting cheaper. Installations expanded. The clean energy transition did not stop because one company collapsed. But Solyndra became a warning about a specific kind of risk. The risk of building a capital-heavy empire around a temporary advantage. When a startup's edge depends on a market condition staying in place, leadership has to ask a hard question. Is the company building a durable moat, or is it simply benefiting from a temporary gap? Solyndra's gap was expensive silicon. When that gap closed, the company had to compete on manufacturing cost, not just originality. And in manufacturing, originality can open the door, but cost decides who stays inside.